Ajay Choksi from Anar Chemicals LLP, Ahmedabad. I am a member of DLC's Global Strategy and Execution Committee, Ahmedabad chapter. And I have been asked to speak today on sustainable and strategic solutions, mitigation lessons from the chemical industry, which is my area of experience. Globally, the whole world is facing the problem of environmental degradation. And unfortunately, the chemical industry has been a major contributor to this current situation. So obviously, our industry has been asked to come up really quickly with sustainable solutions and also mitigation solutions for our business to be allowed to operate. Otherwise, it would become a grave threat to society. So basically, when we became aware of the extent of the problems we were causing, we started looking at our processes, how efficient these processes are. Because the more efficient these processes are, the less pollution they will generate. So this is the first step for anybody looking to make any chemical products. Are the processes which we are going to use efficient? By efficient, I mean, do they give you, say, 95% of theoretical yields? Because if the reactants combine very well, very efficiently, then the waste products will not be formed to that extent. The lesser the waste produced as a byproduct of the reactions of the processes, the less pollution you have to deal with. That is one thing which everyone must focus on. If any process is giving very low yields, very low efficiencies, it has to be redesigned, it has to be worked upon, and if that is not possible to improve the yield or the efficiency, then better stay away from it. Then we talk about solvents, because a lot of processes, chemical processes, use solvents, a variety of solvents as the medium in which the reactions are done. So how to, because these solvents are also a threat to the environment, because howsoever efficient your recovery processes may be, the solvents of course get recycled and reused, but they get lost in the process, and that loss is going into the atmosphere, and that is very harmful to the air we breathe. So that we have to make sure that if we have to use solvents, first of all, we must use them very sparingly, and we must ensure state-of-the-art recovery processes to make sure that at least 97, 98%, if not 100%, is recovered and recycled. So that is another thing. But the better solution would be to do away with solvents altogether and try to replace that with water, as for example. Because, or there are other ionic liquids and things like that. Things which are, water is of course safe. It will be better than using the solvent. And if you are using some other types of media like ionic liquids, that also can be recycled more efficiently. But that depends on the process we want to employ. So this is now water, but when we use water also, even if you don't use water as a medium, water will be generated somewhere or the other during the processes that we employ. And that water gets contaminated by our chemicals. And that cannot be safely let out. Otherwise, it will contaminate our rivers and lakes and oceans. So we need to treat it. Treatment, end-of-pipe solution is always very costly. So the best solution here again is, can we avoid contamination of the water in the first place? And if that is not possible, how to mitigate the pollution of the water? So this is, now there are other solutions also nowadays in vogue, that whatever is my waste becomes some valuable input for my competitor, for my friend, making some other product. So this is another way. At least what is waste for you becomes an input, useful input for somebody else. So this is something which again we need to look at. And there are plentiful examples, even of people successfully doing this. You are using, say, catalysts to speed up the processes. Those catalysts can be recycled and reused. Or they can be given to the same catalyst supplier who can use it to generate fresh catalyst. At least that is not going into the environment and polluting the atmosphere or polluting the earth or the water. So this is another way that water has to be handled, and the main thing is water itself is a scarce resource. So the population of the earth is growing. People are using more and more water, not only for industry but mainly for agriculture, which we need. We need food that is more important than chemicals, and everything needs water. So obviously, as an industry, our job is to minimize the use of water. Can we recycle? Can we use less water by more efficient machinery or processes? All this has to be looked at. The water has to be minimized. We also use a lot of power. So power, now the emphasis is more and more on going for renewable power, whether it is wind energy or whether it is solar energy. If we can reduce the load on the grid, which is a thermal power grid, then that much less coal gets burnt to supply the power that we need. Now, this is of course something which does not affect only the chemical industry. It affects all users of heavy power. But chemical industry is one of those, so that is why I mentioned it. Another thing is that in our industry, this is all we are talking about sustainable. But another thing which makes our industry, which will make our industry sustainable, is not only use of scarce resources, not polluting the air we breathe. Okay, we in order to keep the air clean, we scrub the emissions, gaseous emissions, with different chemicals, so that that gas is converted into a liquid. But that liquid itself would be maybe acidic, so we cannot let it go just like that. But if somebody can use that acid, that weak acid which is generated by scrubbing of our gaseous emissions, that is even better. So things like that. Otherwise, you go on treating. Ultimately, you are not going to. You will either bankrupt yourself, or ultimately that is a never-ending process. So to be sustainable, we need to think till the end of life cycle. Life cycle analysis we have to do. So this is very, very important. So I was talking about gaseous emissions. These have to be scrubbed. Obviously, you cannot allow harmful gases to vent out into the atmosphere for somebody else to breathe in. So we treat them. Now that itself is maybe acidic. So then you have to do something with that. And the best way is for somebody to find use for it, so it doesn't go into the gutter and then gets treated and whatnot. So we have to work with each other. All our chemical industry stakeholders need to work with each other. Government can also play and does play a role to bring us all together so that we exchange our wastes in a useful way. This is something which can help us all in the long run, can keep us sustainable. We must minimize the use of scarce resources. Another thing which the chemical industry must also take care of is its health and safety practices. Because people talk about EHS, or they call it SHE, because safety, health, environment. Now, environment everybody speaks about, everybody knows. But safety and health are very, very important too, because we cannot be allowed to play with somebody's life. And there is no two opinions about it that most of the chemical processes are dangerous. Dangerous in the sense if they are left uncontrolled, or if proper precautions are not employed in running them. So right from the design stage, one must ensure that the process which one is going to follow is inherently safe or is made safe by proper design. People must be trained, because an accident happens out of the blue. People, when they become complacent, then accidents happen. And human nature being what it is, if you have a month of calm, nothing is happening, then everybody will feel very self-satisfied. And that is where they miss out on something, and that's when accidents happen. For that, continuous training, there is no other way. Continually, you have to train the people who are working on the processes, make them aware of the impact on their health which some raw materials or some products can cause, give them proper protective equipment, personal protective equipment as we call it, whether it is masks or gloves or breathing apparatus or everything. So many things are there. Proper shoes, all that, so that they don't hurt themselves and they don't, get affected health-wise. Because if these things are not done, we are going to hit ourselves on the foot ultimately, because the public is going to be sick and tired of us one day, and they will say, we don't want these chemical guys. We can live without the joys that chemicals may be bringing to our lives, but We cannot allow these guys to play with the environment and to play with the health and safety of the public. So this is very, very important. And anybody, and there is a strategy behind it also. Apart from being good, doing the right thing, even as a selfish industrialist in the chemical industry, it would do us well to remember that uh, this is in our own interest, and tomorrow that will be our strong point. Any industry which is having its uh, act together, properly done in the areas of environment, health, and safety, will have an edge over those who are not doing their things properly. Because there are customers now who insist on proper EHS compliance, not just in name, not just on paper. So this is something which can really help us, but we need to work hard for that. So in sum, I would like to just conclude by saying that what I want to share today is, in our own self-interest, the chemical industry must realize that we owe it not only to the public at large, we owe it not only to the government, but we owe it to ourselves to put our act together as regards environmental protection and protection of the health and safety of our workers and our neighbors, because this is something, it's not just a matter of our conscience doing the right thing, that it undoubtedly is. But if we do it properly, the society will accept us. Okay, yes, the chemical industry does produce goods which are very valuable. Those goods improve the quality of life, but they are not adversely impacting the society in the process. So this is something which strategically also I feel we should do it. Apart from the fact that it is to be done because it is right and because that is a legal requirement, but it is in our own interest. That we must realize. Yeah, so I would like to end on this note with a big thank you to DLC for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences and my feelings about this matter of sustainable practices, whatever I have learned over the years and whatever I strongly believe in. I hope it is of use to everybody in the chemical industry. Thank you very much. A big thank you.